Now this was riveting stuff for kids growing up. I loved it. The whole family used to drive in our old beaten-up car and listen to this on a Friday night as we went to my grandmother's house of a weekend. Well, I began to formulate this idea, and I've gotten a bunch of people that are growing in number, and we are beginning to form yet another company. And this company will create downloadable radio theater, and we will have original scripts of Joe Gunther and his pals. They won't be necessarily based on these books, and they will have beginning, middles, and ends, but they will be sequential. It will be a series as we visualize it now, and they'll run about half an hour, and in that half hour you'll get a tautly told tale based in Vermont, same cast of characters, sound effects, music, actors, not just one, not a book on tape. This has nothing to do with books on tape. This has everything to do with filling your head with a movie that you only hear.
It's a wonderful idea.
So that's what we're working on.
Very ingenious. I do think that my husband and I are giving a talk at the Library of Congress next week on 21st century publishing, which is a pretty daunting task, in my opinion. Sadly, they're going to webcast it, so we can't just stumble through it. We're going to have to do something. I'm depressed to hear that, because I was thinking who would care, you know, but here we are. But I think that while Rob will be talking about the publishing end of it, because he owns the publishing company and I work for him, and I own the bookstore and he works for me, and we are still married then, is the interactive nature of the experience that, you know, you still need the author to create the, you know, the narrative, the body of work, put in the plot and the characters and the setting and all. But from that today, the opportunities, you know, for various interaction is remarkable. And I see that when we have children's events at the store. Owen Colfer, for example. All the kids that came there, they were having some dialogue that was like private language as far as I was concerned, because they were constantly referencing stuff that was on his website, and all the kids had been there, you know, and they didn't see any difficulty at all about moving from the website into the book to coming to the event. I mean, it was all like one experience for them, and I'm going, whoa, what are they talking about? Because I hadn't been to the website. And I really got thinking about that, and there's a new children's thing that's just come out called the 39 Clues, in which it is, there are role-playing games on the web, there's a pack of cards with clues, there are going to be 10 books, each of which have a clue. You get a certain number of clues from the cards, certain number of clues from going online, you know, and doing all that. And at the end, presumably, people who've assembled the 39 clues get something. And I thought, wow, there's a really interesting idea, because they're embracing several different activities, and of course they can sell the cards on the books. And then I don't suppose they're not really charging for the web time, that probably, you know, the website. But I'm thinking that in the 21st century, we're going to get more of this interactive, multimedia, whatever. And what you're going to do is get people moving. I mean, I was waiting for you to say that you were doing role-playing games or something from it. There's a new memoir publishing in November I can't wait to read. I've totally can't come up with the name at the moment, consistent with the rest of my performance today. But it is the memoirs of a British lad, now an author, who grew up and his whole world was Dungeons and Dragons, he and his fellow nerds. And I mean, that was his whole reality for whatever, 15 years or something. And he's analyzing the goods and the bads and how it, you know, turned him into whoever he was today. I was that way with the Oz books. I think that the moment, I can still remember the devastating time. I was maybe 10 years old when I realized finally, one awful night, that I was never going to get to Oz. I absolutely believed that I would cross the deadly desert on the back of the, you know, the hungry tiger, or clicking my shoes or something. I was so sure that world was real. And it was terrible to recognize one day that I would never get there. I think that was the day I passed from childhood, you know. A real threshold. I'm not sure that people do that to that degree anymore. You can in fact stay in that world. And you think about the big franchises like Narnia and stuff, but it could certainly be Joe Gunther. in Vermont.
I think that's a well-taken point. I know of people who have taken aspects of their childhood alive and well into their 20s and 30s. It's a little uncanny, but they seem to function in other aspects, so it's a way of stretching that experience, I suppose.
And it probably depends on how real that other universe was, and how successfully you could stay in it. Well, here we are. We're at the end of our time, which flew by. Let me ask you quickly, do you do short stories at all, or is this going to be a kind of debut for you doing these tight, taut narratives?
Oh, I've done 3 short stories in my life, and they were traditional short stories. So what I just discussed, these half-hour things, would probably be done by others than me.
Oh, okay.
I don't have the training in that, so I would like to hire outside writers.
It's not how you think. The reason I asked you that with a little trepidation was that you are a novelist.
I'm a novelist. I know that.
Yeah, and I don't see you as a screenplay guy or a short story guy.
No. You turn my crank and I just start running.
Right. I mean, you're kind of big picture.
One of the beauties of this project that I have is that I will hire professionals.
Got it. Well, I think it's wonderful. You've changed publishers, you know, you've lots of different directions in your life.
Yes.
And now you just have to live long enough to enjoy it all, right?
I know. Well, my father just died at 99, so I'm in good shape.
Well, I'm delighted to hear it. Thank you so much for coming and sharing some of it today.
Thank you for having me, Barbara.
And thank you all for coming to this episode of the Criminal Calendar.